The millionaire was scared to death of being alone, but the doorman was the only one to surprise him. High on the 72nd floor, Walter Grayson lived in a glass aquarium above Manhattan. Automated curtains rose by themselves at 6 a.m. Coffee arrived via a private elevator that led directly to the pantry. A remote assistant read the calendar in a tinny voice. The apartment had everything money buys. Modern paintings, a piano no one played, Persian rugs so soft they swallowed footsteps, and it had what money usually demands: no one. Call legal, postpone the committee meeting, and Anya, no visitors this week, he would say over the speakerphone at dawn. Yes, Mr. Grayson. On his desk, corporate awards gleamed. On the shelf, a family photo turned to the wall, a reminder of a time when the house had voices. Employees spoke to him via email, suppliers via video conference, relatives only during will. Walter had built a private equity empire by buying distressed companies and putting the house in order with sharp cuts. The method worked in the market. At home, he cut people off. Little by little, he alienated friends, in-laws, and even his own son. What was left was an impeccable man. And alone. Downstairs, in the same building's polished marble and brass lobby, another universe existed. Ethan, 9 years old, scuffed sneakers, backpack with a dinosaur keychain, spent his afternoons there, between the doorman's desk and the waiting couch. His mother, Rosa Delgado, was a cleaning lady for the building. She'd catch the subway from Queens before sunrise and return late, when the lemony scent of disinfectant had already filled the hallways. Stay close by, okay? And no passenger elevators, Rosa would remind her, hurriedly tying her hair into a bun. I promise. Mom. Ethan did his homework on the glass top of the lobby and occasionally helped Doorman Gus Romano sort packages. This building has more packages than people smiling, Gus joked, handing over an apple. Mom says we make smiles at home, Ethan replied, biting into the apple. He knew every sound in the place. The whispering revolving door, the beeping of the badge scanner, the barking of the Spitz from 23B. He knew the names of the delivery people, the schedules of the laundry truck, the floors where the trash always weighed the most. The worlds intersected without touching. The passenger elevator carried bankers, lawyers, influencers, and their dogs in bags. The service elevator, where Ethan fit with his laundry cart, bundles of paper towels and trash bags, climbed up another hidden column with buttons that went from the basement to the 71st floor. The 72nd floor had a key. Mom, does 72 really exist? It does, son. It's just not our floor. But a door is a door, right? Yes, Ethan, a door is a door. The difference is who opens it. Every now and then, the penthouse door would open and a tailcoat-clad employee would pass by with flower arrangements or boxes of wine. Walter almost never appeared in the lobby. When he did, the air changed. Perfect suit, precise expression, steps that asked for space. Good morning, Mr. Grayson, Gus would say. Good morning, he would reply, without slowing his pace. Ethan peeked out of the corner. He only knew Walter from headlines on the lobby TV. Grayson Capital acquires another company. In person, he seemed even more distant, a man who had everything and looked at nothing. In the staff cafeteria, Rosa ate quickly, standing up. This building is beautiful, but they charge a lot for the cleaners, she said, stretching her back. Is that boy yours? He's my pride and joy, she smiled wearily. You learned to say, excuse me, to the automatic door. Ethan appeared with a glass of water. Mom, Mr. Gus said there's a big delivery for the top floor today. Then we'll take the service elevator first, less line. Meanwhile, upstairs, Walter was doing the math that wouldn't add up. He watched reports, ignored invitations, and collected views and silences. Downstairs, Ethan collected little things and kindnesses. He held the door open for his elderly neighbor, 12C, helped the mailman when the stack of letters threatened to fall, and said good morning to everyone. even those who didn't respond. Two worlds stacked in the same building, one measured in billions and glass, the other in bakery coins and people. The same columns, the same elevators, the same zip code, and an abyss made of habits, doors, and choices. The digital clock embedded in the wood of the office read 8Q, and the remote assistant's voice popped over the speakerphone. "Good morning, Mr. Grayson, and happy birthday. Thank you, Anya. Agenda? No meetings. 2 automated congratulations, emails from banks, a restaurant coupon, and a digitally signed electronic card from the board." Electronic card. Walter let out a dry half-laugh. "Leave it unread." He turned the frame of a photo, turning it toward him. His wife smiling, his youngest son beside her, still a boy. The cell phone on the table vibrated. He caught it in a flash. Spam. Blocked it. He looked at the contact, Daniel, opened the message window, typed, "Coffee today," and deleted it. "If he wants, he'll call," he murmured, returning the phone to its charger. At 10, the intercom in the kitchen rang. "Flour delivery for you." "Return it. No return address. I won't receive it. It's from the bank. I can arrange it with an electronic signature card." "It's worse. Return it." Walter walked through the oversized apartment, the entire glass city at his feet. He passed the grand piano slowly. He stopped. He played 2 notes of "Happy Birthday" and closed the lid, irritated with himself. "Ridiculous, Walter." At noon, Anya's voice came back. "Would you like me to fire off an internal note to the team with your address to congratulate you?" "No. Lunch." "I'm not hungry." In the lobby, a different atmosphere was circulating. Gus, the doorman, was reading the bulletin board when Rosa appeared with the cleaning cart and her son leaning against the pillar. "Busy day, Gus." "Always." "Oh, it's the one on the top floor's birthday." "Mr. Grayson's..." Rosa lowered her tone. "Yeah, the building manager sent an email yesterday. No coming up without notice. No one will ring his doorbell." 9-year-old Ethan swallowed his curiosity. "But no one at all, not even family." Gus shrugged. "If he does, we never see him. He doesn't like people, they say." On the 72nd floor, 1:30 p.m. Walter opened the spotless refrigerator, grabbed a bottle of water, and poured half a glass. He sat on the couch in front of the TV, muted. The business channel was showing a call-out. "The Grayson Empire turns 35. He turned up the volume. The anchor smiled at the camera. "Walter Grayson, the discreet tycoon." He hung up. Back at work, she tried to dictate an email. "Anya Wright, gentlemen, I thank you." She stopped, biting her lip. "Delete, delete. Anya, do you believe someone can have everything and nothing?" The assistant was silent for a second. A learned pause. "I can schedule a dinner with anyone you want." "I said nothing, Anya. Thank you." In the hall, 3 p.m. Ethan was stacking parcel boxes with Gus. "Watch out for 11B, kid. There's a fragile bottle in here." "Yes, sir." He looked up at the high ceiling, as if he could see the top of the building. "Gus, when's your birthday?" "I'm past the ones I count." "Why?" "Because there's always cake at my house, even when the fridge is almost empty." Rosa appeared through the service hallway door. "Ethan, don't bother Gus." "You're not bothering me, Miss Rosa. You're reminding us of what's important," the doorman said, half smiling. 4:10 p.m. Walter opened the internal mailbox. Receipts, statements, a black envelope with silver lettering. "Happy birthday, Grayson board." Inside, a stiff card with a printed signature and a cold sentence. "We look forward to your speech at the next board." He folded it in half without reading it all the way through. His cell phone vibrated again. He hurriedly picked it up. It was the operator. "Mr. Grayson, we've offered you an upgrade to your plan." "No, thank you." Basement pantry. Rosa was rinsing rags when Ethan appeared in the doorway, hair a mess from running. "Mom, it's his birthday today. Mr. Grayson's." "Uh-huh." I heard Gus saying, "No one's coming up." "No one." Rosa wrung out the rag and said without looking, "Son, we don't get involved. But don't you always say no one's alone on their birthday?" She breathed heavily. "I do, but not everyone wants to be remembered. What if he just doesn't know how to ask? 6 p.m. The sun was sinking behind the buildings, tinting the Manhattan windows orange. Walter stood at the window, the city opaque outside and the apartment even opaque inside. He picked up the landline, dialed half of an old number, and then stopped. The intercom rang. He froze. Then he realized it was just the generator maintenance warning. Silence again. 7 to 12 p.m. Anya came in again. Last check of the day. Would you like me to set a reminder to call your son? Walter stared blankly. No. Good night, Anya. Good night, sir, and happy birthday. In the lobby, the clock read 7:30. Gus pulled the glass door shut to lock it in night mode. He walked past Ethan, who was still flipping through his math homework on the couch. Go home, champ. School tomorrow. Ethan looked at his mother, who was putting the bucket away in the metal cabinet. Mom! Now, Ethan! He nodded, but stayed 2 seconds longer, staring at the elevator panel. One read 72. Static. 8 p.m. Upstairs, Walter sat at the dining table for two, always set for one, and opened a sparkling water by himself. He looked at the empty chair opposite. He rested his hand on the wood. What's the point of all this? If I have no one, he said softly, for the whole room to hear. Downstairs, the automatic door opened at the last minute of business. Ethan came running back, panting, holding 2 coins and a crumpled bill. Gus, is the bakery on the corner still open? Yeah, but it's closing now. What's up? The boy took a deep breath, resolute. No one should be alone on their birthday. Gus measured the insistent gleam in the boy's eyes and, without another word, pushed open the counter drawer, took out a few more bills, and placed them in his hand. Go and run. Upstairs. The apartment seemed larger at night. Walter walked slowly, hands in the pockets of his cashmere robe, as if taking inventory of his life. He stopped in front of the piano, lifted the lid, let his fingers fall on 2 keys, C, G, and closed it again, irritated. Play it right or don't play at all, Walter, he muttered to himself. Middle ground is what got you here. He walked down the aisle of portraits. A silver frame, Elise, his wife, in a long-ago summer in Montauk, laughing with the wind in her hair. Another, Daniel, a teenager, his arm crossed, that look as if he were already leaving inside. Walter touched the glass with his fingertip. I should have been more malleable. No, you should have been there, replied the memory. The echo came through in its entirety, as if someone was still in the room. Dad, I don't want the college you want. It's not about wanting, Daniel. It's about what your last name demands. Then I'll change my last name. You don't talk to me like that. I talk because you don't listen to me. Walter blinked rapidly, pushing away the dialogue that always came back complete, word for word. He walked over to the bar, opened an expensive bottle, and put it back. No, not today. The phone on the counter turned on by itself, reflecting a tired version of itself. He opened the conversation with Daniel, typed, Son, I wanted to hear from you. He deleted it. He recorded an audio message but didn't send it. Anya, he called into the void, forgetting he'd already dismissed her. Anya, are you there? Silence. Only the low hum of the building's machinery, 72 floors below. He went to Elise's closet, where she still kept a knitted shawl on top. He pressed his face against the fabric. Hey, Lise, if you were here, what would you say? The answer she invented hurt more than the silence. Come down, apologize, start with the doorman. Walter returned to the living room, but his legs wouldn't obey. He stood there looking at the table set for a perfect placemat, perfect napkin, perfect empty chair. What's the point of so much perfection if no one fits? Suddenly, he picked up the landline and dialed a number he hadn't called in years. Daniel's residence? He asked, when he heard the beep that didn't come. It was just a memory. He hung up. He opened his laptop. A folder labeled Letters I Never Sent blinked on the bar. He clicked. A file dated 3 winters ago. To my son, draft 17. He read aloud, stopping at the cuts. Daniel, I don't know how to begin without sounding like I'm asking you for something. I wanted I wanted to tell you about the day you were born. I was afraid, and fear became a demand. Demand turned you away." He closed the file. Too late. The microwave buzzer dinged. The dinner he hadn't wanted to eat. Walter opened it, watched the steam rise, and tossed the plate into the sink. The sound of porcelain cracking cut through the silence of the apartment like glass cracking. "Ridiculous, Walter. Ridiculous." The intercom blinked. "Lobby, Mr. Grayson." He frowned, pressed the button. "Yes," Gus's voice came with measured respect. "Good evening, sir. Just to let you know, we've had a little commotion down here. Nothing major. Would you like me to block the private elevator for visitors, as usual?" Walter hesitated. Part of him wanted to say yes. Another part, not usually vocal, was curious. "Leave it alone for now, Gus." "Perfectly, sir." Walter walked to the window again. The city was a grid of lights. Below, someone was running along the sidewalk with a small paper bag strapped to their chest to keep it from getting wet in the drizzle. He didn't know it, but it was the boy from the hall. And without knowing it, he spoke to the city as if it could respond. "If someone rings my doorbell today, will I open it?" The question hung in the air, huge. At the bakery on 3rd Ave, the bell rang as Ethan came in breathless. "Hi, Mrs. Sloane." "Ethan, closing up, dear. What do you need?" "A very small cake, the simplest." She pointed to the display. 2 miniature carrot cakes, a chocolate one with crooked sprinkles, a single cheesecake. "This chocolate one is beautiful," he said, convincing himself. "Does it have a candle?" "I have it here on the counter." Sloane picked up a small box. "Who's it for?" "For the gentleman on the top floor. The one with the big tips and the scowl." She arched an eyebrow. "Yeah, Dim. You're brave." She put the cake in a box and, without charging, put in a packet of napkins and plastic cutlery. "Take it. Consider it a gift from the house." "Really? But I brought—" "Save your coins. Buy a card at the stationery store on the corner. Write 'Happy Birthday' on it in your own handwriting. Tough people soften when they see a child's handwriting." Ethan walked out with the cake, the cold hitting his face, his heart beating at the same rhythm, fast. Walter passed the portraits again. He stopped in front of Elise's and spoke in a voice loud enough to dispel cowardice. "If you knock, I'll open the door." He took a breath, straightened his posture, and fixed his hair in the hallway mirror. The doorbell didn't ring. He laughed humorlessly. "Of course." A light came on. 1 floor, 2, 3. The panel stopped at 72. The ding sounded low in the anteroom. Walter stood motionless, his hand on the doorknob, torn between 2 versions of himself. The one that would send the visitor away, and the one that desperately needed a sincere congratulations. Outside, a light step adjusted the weight, a small, nervous throat clearing, and a timid knock, almost a request for permission from fate. "Mr. Grayson." Walter's heart responded before his head. He walked to the door. Before opening it, he checked the monitor. Only the top of a head, short, hood damp with drizzle. Could be a delivery man sent by some sycophant, he thought. He unlocked the first lock, then the chain. He opened it a hand's breadth. Yes. Across the way, Ethan looked up. His cheeks were red from the wind. In his hands was a small brown paper box with a crooked bow. The smell of chocolate and rain wafted into the hallway with him. "Good evening, sir. I am Ethan, from the hall." "I know who you are," Walter replied dryly. "What do you want in return, boy?" he growled, tired of hearing requests disguised as kindness. Ethan held up the cake box a little, as if it were the only credential he had. "Nothing. I just thought no one should be alone on their birthday." "No one should," Walter repeated with a short laugh. "Who sent you?" "The doorman. Your mother wants a raise. The building manager wants me to sign something." "No one told me to, sir. It was my idea. My mother just said, 'Be polite and come back if he doesn't want to.'" Walter closed the door a little, considering. The voice came colder. "I don't receive unannounced visits. Not from adults. Not from children with cake." "Okay." I can leave it here on the floor and go, Ethan replied, already bending down to place the box on the hallway rug. No, Walter recoiled, almost offended. That rug cost... He swallowed the rest of his sentence. Don't leave it on the floor. If you're going to leave it, I'll pick it up. Sorry, the boy said quickly. I just didn't want you to go without cake. The silence grew thick. Walter took off the chain and opened 2 more fingers. How much was it? He asked, going straight to his jacket pocket. I'll pay, and I'll pay double. That's the end of the matter. I don't want money. Ethan shook his head awkwardly. Really, I wanted to sing happy birthday and leave. Sing? Here. Walter looked the boy up and down. You know I can call security. I know. Gus is on the radio. He pointed innocently to the hallway intercom. If I yell, he'll come up. But I don't want to be any trouble. I just want you to blow out the candles. Walter took a deep breath. Once, twice. The reflex to close the door and end it all hit him hard. Instead, he called out, Take off your shoes and be careful with the floor. It's marble. Ethan obeyed shyly, placing his soaked sneakers side by side, neatly lined up. Thank you for letting me in, sir. Don't thank me yet. I still find this inappropriate. In the kitchen, Walter pointed to the marble island. Put it there. And don't place the box directly on the stone. Use the placemat, Seusplat. Ethan paused, amused. Ah, that big circle of a plate. Okay. Walter took out his wallet, took out some bills and held them out. Take it, and tell your mother that I appreciate the thought, but don't do it again. Ethan took a step back, hands behind his back. I can't accept it. She told me not to accept anything expensive, and I didn't come for the money. Then why? Walter lifted his chin, irritated. There's no such thing as for nothing. Because I walked down the hall and heard the staff saying that today was your birthday and that no one was coming up. He shrugged. At my place, when someone has a birthday, there's always a cake, even if it's small, even if the candle is crooked. We sing, and that's it. It's the rule. Rules are, Walter began, but his sentence trailed off. His defense, which had always been intact, was now broken. Does your mother know what she's wasting her time on? She said time with people isn't wasted, Ethan replied, without insolence. Walter placed the notes on the counter without insisting. He looked at the boy, then at the city through the window, then at his own hand, which trembled slightly. What if I say I don't want to sing? We just light it and you blow it out. No singing. Ethan smiled slightly. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Walter shook his head, giving in a fraction. You insist. I don't know how to insist. The boy adjusted his coat nervously. I just thought maybe you needed company for 5 minutes. 5 minutes, Walter repeated, checking his watch as if it were a negotiation. Okay, 5. Ethan took a pack of matches from his pocket. Shall I light it? No way. Walter snatched the chrome lighter from the drawer, almost offended. Here we do things, safely. Ethan held the crooked, colourful candles, trying to straighten them with his fingers. Crooked candles bring luck, he ventured. Or they show a lack of planning, Walter replied reflexively, and found himself almost smiling. There, click. 1 flame, 2, 3. Ethan placed the small box in the centre of the island. The tiny glow danced on the marble. Now you decide, with music or without. No, Walter said dryly, and quickly. Ethan nodded, respecting the rule. He stepped back, as if making room for an ancient ritual. Walter stared at the flames, motionless. The old urge to say go away still lingered in his throat, but the image of the boy in the hall, alone with a cheap cake, weighed more heavily. Boy, he said finally, his voice lower, you really don't want anything. Just don't be alone today. The sentence entered where no offer of money had ever entered. Walter blinked slowly, his jaw relaxed an inch. Okay, he relented. 5 minutes of company. Then you can come down. And don't tell anyone. Birthday secret. Ethan made a zipper gesture with his lips. I promise. Walter blew out the candles. Smoke curled upward. Sit down, he said, pointing to the sofa. But be careful with the cushions. Ethan sat on the edge, his socks still damp from the rain, his hands in his lap. He looked around curiously. Wow, it looks like a museum. He pointed to an antique clock. Does this clock go tock-tock all day long? 40 years, Walter replied dryly. It's the only sound that always remains. The faint noise of the city drifted through the windows. For a moment, no one spoke. Walter cleared his throat and composed himself. Very well. I've already blown once. We eat and that's it. Ethan scratched the back of his neck. At home, we always make it right when we forget the wishing part. You have to make a wish, or else it's bad luck. Can we light it again? Again? Walter raised his eyebrows. Are you planning to turn my apartment into a bakery? Just for 30 seconds, I promise. He gave a small smile. I won't sing, just think along. Walter looked at the crooked candles, looked at the boy, and felt his own resistance grow weary. 30 seconds, he conceded, and no music. Ethan already had the match in his hand. May I? Or can you? Me, Walter said, picking up the chrome lighter as if reclaiming a stick. Click. The 3 flames returned, tiny, reflected in the crystal. Now, close your eyes, Ethan whispered, and think of something you can't buy. You give orders well for someone 5 feet tall, Walter grumbled, but he closed his eyes. Silence. The ticking of the clock, the distant rain, 3 flickering flames. Walter stood there, motionless, and for the first time in a long time, he thought of something simple, a table with voices, laughter, no one leaving early. His chest tightened, and without realizing it, he lost his grip. Go, Ethan said softly, before the candle falls. Walter blew. The flames went out in a single puff. Smoke curled upward. He slowly opened his eyes and involuntarily laughed at his own gesture. So, asked the boy, did it work? I have no idea, Walter replied, the corner of his mouth twitching. But it didn't hurt. Ethan clapped his hands in satisfaction. It's a start. Walter cut a generous slice and served the boy on a small china plate. Careful. This is Limoges. Limoges, Ethan laughed. At home, it's just dishes from the corner store. Walter tasted the cake with suspicion, as if afraid its simplicity would betray him. He took a bite. Too much sugar, a slightly gritty frosting, and a vanilla flavor that reminded him of a school party. So, Ethan watched anxiously. It's edible, Walter replied, trying to remain serious. Then he lowered his tone. It's good. I told you a cake is a cake, Ethan said proudly. Donna Rosa's comes with the complimentary crooked candles. Walter gave a short laugh, almost a stumble. Complimentary crooked candles. This one's new. The boy looked at an overturned picture frame on the shelf. Can I ask something? Who is in the photo from behind? Walter followed the gaze. The frame, facing the wall, stared back at him. Someone I lost so badly and didn't know how to hold on to, he replied, without harshness for the first time. My wife and my son, Ethan nodded, choosing his words carefully. My mum says that when the photo hurts, we turn it over for a while. Then, when it fits, we turn it back over. There's no need to rush. Walter remained silent, surprised by the simplicity of the rule. He touched the edge of the frame with just one finger, as if testing cold water. He didn't turn it over. He simply left it there, undisguised. You sound like an old person, he commented, trying to joke and hide his emotion. It's just that I hear it a lot in the hall. Ethan shrugged. Every adult has their own way of being sad. I save the phrases that help. Walter cut another slice, this time for himself. Does the doorman pay you by the hour or by wisdom? Gus pays me in stories and loose change, the boy laughed. And today, in cash, in sight? Yeah, Ethan pointed to the windows. Can I see a little bit of the city from there? Walter hesitated reflexively, then nodded. They walked to the glass. All of Manhattan glowed, a chessboard of lights. It seems that the stars fell to the ground, said the boy, glued to the glass. Walter looked at the city, and I, in a new reflection, looked at the boy. And it was there, not in the luxury nor in the view, that something truly gave way. Without witnesses, without an audience, without a mask, his face broke into a full smile, shy, awkward, but genuine, the first in years. "Congratulations, Mr. Grayson," Ethan said quietly. "Now you do." "Congratulations, then," Walter replied, almost joking, "to the birthday and to complimentary crooked candles, and orders that can't be bought, and orders that can't be bought," he repeated, keeping the phrase safe, like someone keeping a key. They stood there for a few seconds, and then the boy returned to the table. "Would you like another piece?" Ethan asked, picking up the crumbs with his finger. "No." Walter put down his fork and took a breath. "Tell me something, kid. Do you always do this? Bring cake to strangers?" "It's not for strange, sir. Today is your birthday," he laughed. "At home, birthdays are the law. Even if it's a cake from a bakery flyer and a crooked candle, we sing at home," Walter repeated, curious. "Does your father approve of this law?" Ethan was quiet for a second, like someone looking for the right shelf for a souvenir. "My dad left early," he said simply. "Really early. It was raining one Saturday. After that, it was just me and my mom. She cleans the floors in the morning and sometimes takes the night shift when someone's absent. I help out as best I can. I carry trash bags to the compactor, change the water for the plants in the hall, and stay with Gus when she goes up to the apartments." Walter straightened his posture. "How old are you?" 9. "And he already helps as much as he can." "Well, help counts," he shrugged. "We don't have much, but when someone has a birthday, there's always a cake, even if it's just a cupcake cut into 4. It's Mom's rule." The words hit Walter like a silent blow. "We don't have much, but when someone has a birthday, there's always cake." He looked around. The walls covered in art, the rug that cost more than 3 families could earn in a year, the china cabinet guilty of so much glitter, and his birthday had been silent. "There's always cake," he repeated quietly, as if testing the phrase in his mouth. "Because cake is like a reminder that we're here," Ethan tried to explain. "Look, you were born, that's great, even when everything is hard." Walter stared at the overturned frame on the shelf. The air grew thick. "And who gave you a cake for your last birthday?" he ventured, trying to regain his skepticism. "Gus bought a big carrot and cut it up at the concierge. Mom showed up at recess with a crooked candle and a 'sing softly, people are sleeping.'" Ethan smiled. "I got a used Yankees cap and a story from Gus about growing up in Queens. It was cool." Walter nodded slowly. Inside his chest, something shifted. Not the sound of an engine, but the crackling of something that had always been missing and he couldn't even name. "You know, sir," Ethan began carefully, "Gus says that sometimes grown-ups just need someone to show up with a piece of cake and be quiet for a while." Walter took a deep breath. He gripped his fork as if gripping an invisible handrail. His eyes began to shine behind the mask hardened by years. "Boy," the voice came out hoarse, "I've always been scared." "Afraid of what?" "Of being alone." He put down his fork again. He looked at the empty guest table, the high ceiling, the city outside, and it seems fear won. I pushed everyone away, negotiating, winning, buying, pushing, until one day he swallowed. "I had no one left to lose who wanted to stay." Ethan didn't answer. He just slowly pulled a linen napkin from beside his plate. He took 2 small steps, stood in front of Walter, a small man standing before a huge man, and raised his hand. "Excuse me," he said very seriously. Walter tried to laugh. "You are going?" "Just one little thing." Ethan touched the napkin to the corner of Walter's eye, as gently as someone blowing out a candle without wind. "My mom does this when I'm sad and want to pretend I'm not." Walter closed his eyes for a second. The tear subsided. Another came. His chin trembled. He covered his face with his hand and inhaled, like a man finally reaching the surface after a long time without air. "Sorry," he muttered. This is ridiculous. It's not ridiculous, no. Ethan took a step back, giving her space. It's birthdays. Sometimes we cry on our birthdays. Walter let out a sad, wet laugh. You sound like a 90-year-old man. And you, Ethan showed the cake, you just won a 10-pack with a crooked candle. A pleasant silence. The clock ticked. The rain thinned on the window. Thanks for coming up, Walter said finally, his voice lighter. For the cake. For the napkin. You're welcome. Ethan shrugged. Gus says people are better when there are people. I just brought people. Walter looked at the boy and, for the first time in many years, felt seen without wanting anything in return. What if, he began slowly, testing his courage, what if I go down and have coffee with Gus tomorrow? Could you introduce me to your mother better? I'll introduce myself. Ethan smiled hugely. But you have to promise one thing. What? That when someone has a birthday, you will remember our rule. Walter extended his hand. The shake was short, firm, almost ceremonial. I promise, there's always cake, even if it has crooked candles. The next morning, at 7 sharp, the top-floor passenger elevator brought down something almost no one saw. Mr. Walter Grayson himself. Good morning, he tried, his voice still unpracticed. Gus looked up from the gatehouse logbook. He blinked in surprise. Good morning, Mr. Grayson. Would you like coffee? I'll bring it today. Walter lifted a cardboard tray with 3 steaming glasses. One for you, one for Mrs. Rosa, right? And one, I'm learning to say, for me. Gus laughed, lightening the mood. I attest. This is historic. Thank you, sir. The cleaning cart turned the corner into the hall. Rosa hurried over, hair tied back, gloves in her apron pocket. She stopped when she saw Walter with the tray. Mr. Grayson, did something happen? There was a cake yesterday. He held out a glass, and I owed you thanks. And good morning. She hesitated for a second, then picked up the coffee. Thank you, sir. Ethan said you blew out the candle. Pies. Walter smiled slightly. Apparently it's the official tradition of 14B. Gus, from the counter. The whole building will want a crooked candle now. Walter pointed to the bulletin board. Can I put a note there? Cake Wednesday. Anyone with a birthday this week can come by here at 4 p.m. I'll take care of it. Rosa almost choked on her coffee. Are you going to give everyone a cake? Not give, he searched for the word. Remember, I learned yesterday that a birthday is a reminder that we are here. Gus smiled broadly. Noted. Cake. Wednesday at 4. At noon, Walter reappeared in the hall with a shopping bag. Ethan came in through the doorway, backpack over his shoulder. Mr. Walter, the boy braked happily. You got off. I went down and I brought... Walter pulled a wooden chess box from his bag. My father's inheritance. And can I teach you how to open with pawns? Yes. Ethan looked at his mother. Mom, can I play for a bit? Donna Rosa looked from Walter to the clock. 15 minutes. And don't forget your homework. Yes, ma'am. Walter saluted playfully. By the way, Mrs. Rosa, I wanted to ask permission for something. Ethan's school chess club charges a fee. If you agree, I'll cover it. Not as a favor, as a neighbor. And if you prefer, I can do it through a fundraiser in memory of my wife. That way it won't be personal. Rosa straightened up, embarrassed. You don't need to... I know. Walter lowered his tone. But I want to, and I'm going to do it right. She breathed, thought, nodded. Then let's do it the right way, with paper and everything. In the afternoon, 2 residents crossed the hall whispering, Look, it's down. I bet there's a condominium campaign coming. Walter Hurd stopped beside them. Not a campaign, he said, sounding offhanded. Coffee and cake on Wednesdays. And if you have any suggestions for the employee lounge, I'll pay for it. They spend more time here than we do. Gus winked at Rosa. Who is this man, and what did he do with the one on the 28th? In the days that followed, the small rituals changed the landscape. Walter began to learn names. Good morning, Ms. Chen. How's your knee, Mr. Grayson, she replied, surprised. It's getting better with the ice. Thank you for asking. Mr. Patel, in the superintendent's office. We need a decent table for staff breaks. I'll pay for it and won't put up a sign with my name on it. Approved, Patel said, laughing. But I'll put up a sign, take a leisurely break here. With Ethan, routine became a longing for something he'd never had. Chess games in the corner of the lobby, homework completed on the counter with the help of a former engineer who finally remembered how to simplify fractions. If an empire has 12 factories and you divide it by 4 regions, you get 3 factories per region, Ethan replied victoriously. Math is just logistics with less noise. Walter winked. Rosa every day became less suspicious and smiled more. You're different, Mr. Walter. I'm practicing being a human being downstairs, he replied humbly. Upstairs, I forgot how. Wednesday, 4 p.m. The coffee table in the hall held a simple cake, chocolate frosting, and, of course, crooked candles. Gus announced, radio in hand, "Attention, inaugural tradition of the building. Whoever has a birthday during the week, there will be a cake and an off-key happy birthday." The first to approach was Ms. Chen, embarrassed, then the mailman, then a couple from the 12th grade who never stopped for anything. Walter cut the pieces, listened to stories, laughed to himself when the lighter didn't light. "You know what Gus said?" Ethan whispered. "Would that you, having been doing it the wrong way for so long, are learning the right way very quickly." Walter looked around. There was no new luxury, just people. Yet it was as if someone had turned on lights the most expensive chandelier didn't recognize. "Yeah," he murmured, "the view from the ground floor is better than the one from the top floor." And so the days went by, until the building's event room looked different that autumn evening. String lights, tables with colorful tablecloths, and platters brought from every apartment. Ms. Chen's dumplings, empanadas from the couple on the 12th floor, Donna Rosa's cheese bread, a family recipe, Gus's lemonade. In the center, a white cake with simple frosting and, lined up like tired soldiers, 12 deliberately crooked candles. "Attention, everyone." Gus tapped his spoon against his glass. "A year ago, this gentleman spent his birthday alone. Today, if he tries to be alone, he won't be able to. Happy birthday, Mr. Grayson." Walter entered, a little awkwardly, in a light blue suit, an antique brooch in his pocket. He paused for a moment, taking it all in. Ethan came running, taller now, the chess box under his arm. "You promised," he said, smiling. "There's always cake and a crooked candle." Walter spread his arms. "Come here, General. Hugs. Later, Rosa." "Congratulations, Mr. Walter. And thank you for everything you've done this year." "Thank you, Rosa. You and your son taught me the basics. Showing up." Mrs. Chen raised a glass. "To the neighbor who learned to say good morning, and hear good morning back." Laughter. Walter raised his hand, asking for a minute. "I prepared a speech," he began, and everyone feigned booing. "But I thought it best to talk about the only serious topic tonight. Cake." Laughter. "A boy knocked on my door with a crooked cake and fixed something here." He touched his chest. "I lost a lot of people along the way because I chose the wrong elevator, the one that goes up. I discovered that the right one is the one that goes down. Real people live on the ground floor, in the lobby, on the cleaning cart, in the hall where life passes by." Gus wiped his eyes discreetly. Ethan nudged him excitedly. "And the wish, Mr. Walter?" "The wish." Walter looked around, lingering on each face. "That no one here spends their birthday alone, that our Cake Wednesday becomes a condominium rule, and that the door to the 28th floor is open for bad coffee and good conversation whenever you need it." "Here, here," Patel shouted, raising his glass. Walter leaned over the cake. Before blowing it out, he took out one candle, the most crooked one. "This is a memento of the first night." He placed it in Ethan's hand. "Keep it to remind me if I forget." "I remember you," Ethan said seriously, as if accepting a mission. 1, 2, 3. Rosa pulled. Blow. The little lights seemed to twinkle together. Applause. Walter laughed out loud, a sound the building hadn't heard before last year. "First cut is house," he announced, passing the spatula to Ethan. "You cut it, Captain." "I'll cut, but the first one goes to Gus, who held the door when it rained and when it was sunny." "I accept," Gus said, emotionally. "And I want to state for the record, the person who invented the crooked candle was 14B, and that will be included in the internal regulations." The cake was passed around, the music played softly, old jazz. Ms. Chen taught Walter how to hold the dumplings with chopsticks. Patel appeared with chai. Rosa, between bites, rested her head on her son's shoulder, proud of how he'd grown inside. Later, with the dishes piled high and the lights reflecting in the windows, they took a photo. Walter in the center, Ethan and Lucia on one side, Gus and Mims, Chen on the other, neighbors in the back, everyone crowded together, no one left out. He printed the photo on the spot on a Polaroid and slipped it into his jacket pocket. "It's going on the shelf," he promised. "And next to my wife's picture, she would approve." "Would you approve of what?" Ethan asked. "The rule," Walter ruffled the boy's hair, "the rule that's worth more than any condominium clause. Where there are people, there's cake. And where there's cake, no one is alone." Just as the lights were starting to dim, the elevator opened with a timid ding. A man in his 40s, wearing a wrinkled suit and holding an old envelope, stood in the doorway. He had the same chin as Walter. "Hi, Dad," the voice came low. "I heard about the party. Mrs. Rosa called me." The hall fell silent for a gentle moment. Walter took a breath, one step, then another. "Daniel." He lifted a plate from the sideboard with the last piece of cake, crooked candles already tucked into his waistcoat pocket. "There's still cake," he said, with a smile that mixed fear and relief. "There's always some here." Daniel nodded, his eyes watering. "I arrived too late in so many things, but I wanted to start off right." Ethan approached, offering the matchbox. "Can we light a candle just for this part?" Walter touched his son's shoulder. "You don't need a candle to start. You need a chair. Sit down." Daniel sat down. They shared a tight, unhurried embrace. Outside, New York City was still ablaze. Inside, a father and son finally made peace. End of history.